Hey everyone, waking up this morning. What do I see outside after not being home for a couple of weeks? Outside here, I see a couple branches on the ground. I see a tree. See it up there stuck up in the other trees? And in the background, I see a whole bunch more trees. So I got this nice rock wall in my yard. And these trees here look like they're in decline too. I wouldn't be too mad if they fell over. If this was all sun, it would allow my little blueberry bushes underneath them to probably do a little better. But we have to knock this one down, which shouldn't be too hard. It's stuck up there in my cherry tree. Or some of these, honestly, if you just leave them, eventually they'll fall on their own. But look, there's a whole new buffer of little trees that's going to take over. See this? These grow very, very fast. This is yellow birch. When they have that extra sunlight, because look, they have a whole new opening. They're going to take off like crazy. So let me show you what I got back here. I don't know how some of these rocks got out of here too. So we had a windstorm. And I wasn't home. I got concerned because I got a notification from my electric company that the power was out. And my property has a bunch of poles that go down the driveway. And if you don't personally report that, they won't fix it. And I was gone for a few weeks. And I was worried the pipes and everything in the house were going to freeze and break. But then, thankfully, after a day, it came back on and I was able to look through my living room camera. I put a thermometer in front of the living room camera so I can make sure the furnace is working. So everything was fine. And I got home in the middle of the night and I thought everything was fine. I didn't see any trees down in the yard. I went for a walk around the yard. And then this morning the sun comes up and I noticed this. Look at that, I got another one down right there. This is on my raspberry patch, but look at all the extra sun that's gonna be in this area. We lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 because of the one I just showed that's stuck up. Look at this. That was pretty rotten. So these trees that fell down were planted by the logging company in the 1970s with the intention of being cut down for pulpwood, maybe even lumber. They do use balsam for studs. You can find it in the stores like Home Depot. Anyways, the logging company sold it in the 70s is when my house was built, and they never got logged. These trees, because they're planted so close together, they're not exactly healthy. So they fall over, and it's actually a good thing. Now look at all this sunshine that's going to come in now. Now that all these trees just knocked each other down. That big one broke, and this little one got crushed. That little one got crushed. But look at all the little trees that are going to start thriving now. Now, a few of these are going to get singed, but it's okay. There's so many of them. I'm going to cut all these branches off, throw them right in the middle. We're going to light it on fire because there's enough room here for it. Look at this tree. This one's dead too. I could chainsaw that one, or I'm probably just going to leave it because I'm overwhelmed with what I already got. Eventually that'll fall down on its own. It's nowhere near the house, so I don't really care. I'm glad my white pine didn't fall. I don't have many of those in the yard. And the one right here, that's not dead. That's called, what's the word? It loses its needles in the winter. It's not an evergreen pine tree, but it is a pine tree. They call it in the West larch, but we call it something different. Tamarack, that's what it's called. And this one got crooked. It got bent when that one, see it hit, and this one's bent. That will probably survive and straighten itself out. I got a bunch like that from prior storms. And this one finally broke. I've shown that one in videos. It was holding on. That weird break right there was from a couple years ago, and now it just snapped up there. Surprised it didn't break at that mark. But as you can see, we got a whole nother tree here. We got another there, another there. We got a whole bunch. I'm just gonna chainsaw all these off, throw it in the middle, light it up. And then the bigger logs, I'm just gonna cut into nice, maybe 18-inch sections, perfect for a fireplace, but I don't typically burn evergreen in the house. I used to, but it's not very efficient. It's not because of creosote. We have a special chimney that it can handle chimney fires. We've had multiple chimney fires. I don't care about that. As long as there's snow on the roof, it'll burn itself out. It's rated for that. Bought really good chimney pipes, but it's not efficient, so we buy hardwood. As you can see, we don't have any hardwood on this property. It's all evergreen far up north. I do have my insulated boots on now. I'm wearing a hoodie. I'll probably start sweating even in these temperatures. It's about 5 degrees above zero right now, or that's about negative 16 Celsius right now. But yeah, a couple of these little trees are going to get singed, but these openings are actually a good thing because biodiversity will move into these openings. Let me show you. So we lost all these trees. I'm just going to walk through here because my trail's blocked. These are all blueberry bushes. They have more light now, so maybe they'll take off. Look at this brand new barrier of balsam fir. They're clearly too close together, but they'll weed themselves out. Here's a big stack of firewood from the previous owner. Look at that. You might remember a couple years ago I did a camping video here. This was perfect to make a tent out of with a tarp, except this one has since broken and fallen down. Those fell down in different storms with winds in different directions. Our storms usually blow this way, towards the east, but if they blow towards the west, there's usually more damage. This storm was normal winds. This would have been way, way worse if we had unusual winds that the trees haven't strengthened themselves to resist. So this is all too rotten. It's just a habitat pile at the moment. I always see milk snakes and stuff going in there. We got an uprooted one here. We have a very high water table certain times of year, so this will probably fill up with water. See, the soil's not great around here. Very, very sandy. They have very, very shallow roots. I hate when they uproot, especially if it's in the yard, but thankfully this is in the woods, so it really doesn't matter. Over here I got my meat smoker. It just barely didn't get hit. We got to chainsaw all this up, make room for it. We lost more trees, lots of daylight coming in here now, so that's a good and bad thing. This one is still alive, amazingly. Look at that. It's actually healing from that weird injury. I don't know how long the camera's gonna let me film. Usually it shuts down in these very cold temperatures. I'm gonna try to time lapse myself cutting this stuff up, but if I can't, I guess I'll just show you clips partially through it, and then we're gonna light up a huge bonfire tonight. See, this is another one of my trails blocked by so many trees. But I'm gonna show you it's not a big deal what's happened here. Look, another one stuck up. Some of these that aren't blocking my trails, I'm not really gonna prioritize, especially the ones I can't see from the house. I'll just let these fall down naturally, and when they do fall across my trail, I'll pick them up. There's just too many. But everyone might remember back in 2021, I had pretty much the same thing happen. Further down here in my woods, across the little stream, we probably had twice as many trees fall. They all went down like dominoes. But these ones were smaller. The ones we're dealing with today are much bigger. See, these are a lot smaller back here. Also planted by the logging company in the 70s. They just didn't grow as much, I guess, because they were tight. But see, that one, crooked, it straightened itself out since 2021. The top did anyways. See, we stacked all the wood, regardless if we ever use this or not. That's perfectly seasoned. We could come out here, make a little fire pit. This could be a campsite. We got a lot of the firewood. If we don't use it, it'll just rot away. I also threw all the branches and I chopped them up like lettuce. It helps them decompose faster. Because if you leave all these trees on the ground over each other like that, it blocks sunlight and nothing grows. It becomes a dead zone. So that's called a habitat pile. It'll quickly break down. You just dice it with the chainsaw. Be careful not to hit the ground because that'll quickly dull your blade. When I had this issue, a couple friends that actually worked for a tree company came and helped me with this. they taught me a few tips. They taught me sharpen your chainsaw after every heavy work day like we're about to do. Then you never have to worry about having a dull blade. You only have to sharpen each tooth with a couple strokes of the file. And they're right, that's what I do every time. At the end of the day, a couple strokes on every single blade. It only takes a couple minutes. But anyways, when these areas suddenly are opened up to daylight, look at all the raspberry bushes that started growing. The bears love it. We have bears here all the time. They leave us alone. They honestly don't even go up to the house. They used to go in my garbage, but I put ammonia cleaner in there that keeps the bears away. I love seeing the bears, and this is completely natural, their food supply. They don't come near the house, and we legally have to not put food out for other animals when the bear's present. And that's what we do. We monitor with trail cameras. And as soon as we realize the bear might be eating something like the corn intended for turkeys, because I have a lot of ticks on this property, but if we feed the turkeys, they eat all the ticks and they're magically gone in a day. But anyways, eventually these will get shaded out by the next layer of trees. That's the natural cycle. Look back here. There must have been a blowdown before I even owned the property. Look at all these seedlings that are probably 5 or 8 years old. And you know what? No one cleaned that up, I don't think. I think it just rotted down. So these blowdowns will rot away on their own. But if you cut them up like this, you can speed up the process probably twice as fast. If you have a very moist, rainy year, like our summers are supposed to be cool and rainy. If you have a lot of years like that consecutive, it grows moss and it breaks all this stuff down. It breaks down all the little branches I'm about to cut off, and then the log will rest on the ground where it can rot and become habitat. If you have a bunch of drought years that are dry, it sits there not doing much of anything except becoming a fire hazard. By cutting it up like this, we're mitigating fire hazards because all the debris is in one little pile and the logs are in separate piles and the ground is completely clear. We've never had really issues with forest fires in these areas, but we don't want to take chances. I have lived here through 2 of the driest years ever recorded, and I've also lived here on the wettest, coldest year. Amazingly, that all happened in the past 6 years. We had a year, the summer high temperature was in the upper 60s or like 17 Celsius. That was the average all summer. We did have a couple warm days, but it rained almost every single day that summer to the point native trees were growing mold on their leaves and going into hibernation early. Too much water. We also had another year where the average temperature was 91. In Celsius, I think that's upper 20s. Now, you might think that's not that warm. It is for this forest that has very shallow roots and the soil is poor. This region is supposed to get rain often. So that really affects things. Our average summer temperature recorded over the past 100 years is 76, or I think about 23 Celsius. It does play a big role when it is just a little bit warmer, but hopefully I didn't bore you too much with this 13 minutes of explanation. Now I'm gonna start time-lapsing myself chopping up. Hopefully my chainsaw wants to start in these 5-degree temperatures. Hopefully. I got a commercial chainsaw a couple years ago when this all happened because I wanted something reliable instead of I had one from I had a Craftsman, the newer Chinese ones, and I also had a Harbor Freight one, also made in China. They're decent saws, but they don't like starting in the cold, and they have very small blades, small teeth. It takes longer. Commercial chainsaw has a huge bar, meaning more teeth, meaning it gets dull. Not as fast. Faster RPM, bigger teeth, takes bigger chunks out of the wood, goes like 3 more times as fast. Great investment, so I'll be using my commercial grade Husqvarna today. I also want to at least open my trails back up and throw this debris to the side. I got trails going all over the yard. And not only do I use it, but animals use these trails because it's easier to walk. This is my property line. This one is from a couple years ago. It's still alive. It's straightening itself back out amazingly. My camera's straight. That's how crooked it is, but yet the top is straightening. Pretty interesting. This is all from the blowdown a couple years ago. Look, the branches all broke off naturally. I just want to get rid of some of the unappealing looks that I see out my window. But you see, naturally, all the branches rot off. This happened just in 2021. All the branches rotted off. Those are eventually going to sit on the ground, become rotten. And look at all the birch trees quickly growing in. I love to see nature reclaiming. My area has a trend, I think, because as summers get a little bit warmer, it seems, the evergreens are dying out and slowly replacing with maple and more birch. You know, it's not all in one spot. I think that was a microburst we had in 2021. I think we have probably a good 100 trees that are snapped but not fallen down across the property. We have more trees down back here. Thankfully this year, the snow never got deep enough to ever clear it. That's my snowplow right there for our loader. And I can't get the dirt bucket off it, which is a pain for moving snow because the snow gets stuck in it. Does anyone have any suggestions on how to get a dirt bucket off a loader? I've tried heating it up with a torch. I've tried freezing it with nitrogen, hoping the pin would get smaller. I put a 12-foot long steel pipe on the end of it. I can't get it to release. I've put penetrating oil on it. Pretty much every day I'm home for the past 5 months. I can't free it up. And it's not like it sat. It was a week after putting the dirt bucket on. It just would never come off again. Maybe it's got debris in it, but still, don't know how to get my dirt bucket off. If you didn't know, in these temperatures, you're supposed to use low temperature oil. It stays nice and thin. If you use regular stuff, it might not lubricate your chain properly in these cold weather. And then remember to take this out, because if you leave this in there in the summer, it's too thin and it'll leak all over the floor. Now, some people say the heat of the engine will thaw out regular stuff. I don't find that to be true. And we got our 2-stroke. Let's fill it up, see if it'll start. I always make sure I put my pants over my boots because I hate my boots filling up with sawdust, because then I track it all over the house. I also gotta empty my pockets before I go in the house. There's all kinds of places sawdust gets trapped. All right, the first thing I'm doing is seeing if there's any gas in it. Nope, it's bone dry. So that allows me to put some fresh stuff in there. My older chainsaws had bad gaskets, so the fuel would not be as flammable. It would go bad really quick. It would start, but then as soon as you hit the accelerator, it would stall. Bad fuel. I'd have to dump it out and put new stuff in it. This one can sit for 6 months and the fuel's still good. It's got great gaskets. Oops. All right, got it open. I think what's in it is summer stuff, so we gotta mix some of this in there. Thankfully, it's almost empty. It's very thick, like molasses. Even the cold weather stuff is a little bit thick. In my experience, the oil reservoir lasts about 3 gas tanks, but I top it off every time. that's a good sign. The choke just shut off. Now it should go nice. All right, what's going on with you? It might have a dirty air filter. Let's see if we can get it started, and I'll clean it after the work. All right, we got it. It's just really cold out. It's good to have a little bit of slack on your chain, but we got a little bit too much. That's good. You don't want it too tight either, because that'll cause wear and tear. So I had already definitely put 2-stroke in this. That's why it's blue, the gas. But because it's winter, I just added a little bit extra for extra lubrication in the cold temps. I don't think it's necessary, but... Now here's a tip I have for everyone. Cars and machines that are running every day or very often, this isn't a problem. But ethanol, you want to try to avoid in equipment like this. Like, I haven't used my chainsaw in almost a year. If you leave a tank full of ethanol, regular gasoline in there, it's going to cause a little bit of resin to form in the carburetor bowl. As it evaporates, more trickles in there. It keeps evaporating, leaving that varnish behind. So, if you have it in your area, I definitely suggest you buy octane. It doesn't matter what octane it is, ethanol-free. What I use in all my machines, the lawnmower, everything that sits for half the season gets ethanol-free, because when it evaporates, it leaves nothing behind. It doesn't cause any starting issues. A lot of free machines I find on the side of the road, it's because the carburetor's filthy from people using regular fuel. You don't want to be doing that. It's fine if you use it all the time, but when it sits, it causes problems. So I always buy ethanol-free for any seasonal machine. And I'm so paranoid with ethanol that before I fill my cans for my yard equipment, I'll pump a gallon of it into my car just to purge out the regular stuff, because it uses the same nozzle. All right, everyone, I'm a bit cold, but I should warm up once I start working. I can't do anything with gloves. There we go. So right now I'm just prioritizing getting the trails open completely. Then we'll start dragging things over to burn them. Well, I went ahead and started the fire because it's better just to throw it in instead of having to move everything twice. Hopefully this gets going. It's very difficult. Everything is so wet and cold. I'm not even confident that this is going to stay burning, but I'll go back to time-lapsing. Hopefully that continues to go. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that time lapse. I'm gonna do more time lapsing later, but I have to put the camera in my pocket for a while. It thankfully is not cold enough where it won't record, but it is cold enough it won't charge while recording, so I'm gonna have to give it a break. This will eventually all catch on fire, even though those are wet logs. And once it does catch on fire, this is probably gonna be hot for days. This will catch back up again. We had to use a little bit of diesel to get it going, but that just proves that there's really absolutely no risk of forest fires. This was so hard to get it moving. And over here, I thought to myself making those even to have like a bench, because I could have notched that one down a lot and this one just a little bit and had a piece of wood there, but those are going to shift around. That is not staying like that. Definitely not. But I do plan on leaving the logs without the branches just sitting there to rot into the woods. So I made it into 2 separate seats. Since I knew it would shift, I didn't bother making a bench. But I did make some chairs, so you can just sit here. This is actually a good location for a permanent fire pit, now that there's a wide open spot. And look at all that wood over there. I would think in the summertime I'll slowly pitch away at that at just a little campfire, but I think I'm gonna also throw this one in there just to clear up this area. I'm definitely gonna burn all these branches going on into there. Ton more branches. I'm gonna be out here all day, probably till midnight doing this. Well, first time of the day, got my chainsaw stuck. Didn't move how I thought it would. And I tried jumping on it, won't work, so now I got this giant pry bar. There we go, that was so simple. There it goes. Now it's starting to take off. It's kind of good. There's heat down there, drying that out, and then suddenly it goes poof. There we go. It's not as smoky as I thought it would be for green pine needles. We're having a good day. All right, I'm gonna get back to work. Are we finally out of gas? I don't think so. We might be out of gas finally. Yeah. I think we finally are out of gas. Now I plan on just leaving this log on the forest floor, this big one. I don't have to deal with that because this isn't part of my yard. I expect this to grow back in with trees again. I'm just trying to get rid of most of these branches because that delays the regrowth by many years. But this piece I'm getting out of here because this is my trail I'm trying to reopen. So, you know, ever want to have your chainsaw blade touch the dirt, it dulls it. So I made a hole with the chainsaw so I could turn it. Now I'll cut this off. And my trail going to the meat smoker. That meat smoker I'm probably gonna move closer to the house. It doesn't really need to be out here. There's another uprooted tree I didn't even notice under all the branches earlier. Quite a big hole. You see this little seedling right here? That'll straighten back out. As long as we don't have a year of drought where this ball of roots gets dry. This is the reason why in the woods sometimes you see a tree that looks like a spider. Its roots are going to climb down, and then when this rots away, that's what is going to remain. Or in most cases these days, when they log, a seedling starts growing on top of the stump, and when that stump rots, that's what leaves it looking like a spider. Oh my gosh, it just went up. Look at all that smoke. Good thing we notified the fire department because that's gonna go really far. We have accomplished a lot today. I've only been out here about 5 hours, and we still got another 4 or 5 hours of daylight. So we cut this tree, good portion of it up. I'm gonna cut that up and throw it in the fire. That tree, that tree. I'm keeping all these little pieces because this is alive, but that'll season, and in the summer that'll make a good campfire. I went over here, cut up this tree, got it out of the area I mow. Fire's going good. Those logs in there are really cooking now. That's gonna be really hot for a while. Then later tonight I can throw in all the burned off edges back in there. So these logs I'm gonna leave, but I'm still working on getting rid of. There's a lot of branches still left to drag back and cut up. These logs I'll probably leave on the ground. Eventually maybe cut this up. But this isn't exactly a trail I use. Over here I got the whole area by my meat smoker cleaned up. I cut up this tree. This I'll probably leave here. It's a good sitting area when you're out here using the smoker. Cut up that one, cut up that one. Now I'm going to show you what I'm working on. Eventually I'm going to cut up all that in there. At first I was going to leave this like a tunnel, but I don't like how it's hung up. So I cut off the ends right here, hoping that in the spring, when the ground's not frozen, this will fall back into place. The other one with the little evergreens on it, I'm gonna leave tipped over, anchored, so it can't stand back up. Because that'll be kind of cool. Like I said, spider tree. But this, I think, is not safe, but I want to show it. This tree's alive. So this is very heavy. It hurts your back just moving 18-inch pieces. Whole thing is being held up by this that I can fit my hand around. And that is really big. That had to have been a 70-foot tree. It goes way back into there. I just want to get it off my trail. And we'll deal with that another day. Probably have another fire. I will stop cutting things up as soon as the sun goes down around 5, and then have the fire contained enough where I can go to sleep by midnight is the goal. Nothing's gonna start a fire this time of year. Many of the neighbors, when they have burn fires, leave them running all night. The law is, as long as it's under control and there's snow on the ground. Now, let's try to get this to fall without getting the saw stuck. It's unpredictable. I don't know if it's gonna fall towards me or away from me, so I'm gonna try to stand back here a little bit. Let's see how this falls. Oh no, we ran out of gas right at the best cut. I'll be right back. All right, here we go. Look at all those trees that just fell down. We cut a good path. Eventually I'll drag that out of there. It's all cut up, ready to be dragged. Some of that stuff I'll maybe just let it rot. Or if I feel like having another bonfire, I'll just burn it in place again. As long as there's no tree canopy up above, we can do that. I gotta check this camera. Those trees falling might be on it, because I film animals that walk this path. Just about every path had some sort of blockage, and I cut it all up because it's too big of a job for today. Certain trails, I'll just throw it to the side. Certain trails, I'll drag it to the nearest burn area. I've got about a dozen areas where I stack things and just light it on fire when everything's wet or raining. Depending where it is, I might leave certain areas. If it's inconvenient taking it out, I'll just make it into a habitat pile and dice it up a little bit so it rots faster. If there's lots of air going through there, it can't rot because it dries out too fast. If you dice it up, it kind of composts very easily. Well, we got a lot done. I'm gonna take it easy now. I'll let this smolder for a while, then I'll start pushing the edges in. You see how cold it is out there. This stuff's not even catching from that immense heat. And zero snow around the pit is melting. It's just so cold out. People always say to me, oh, it can't be that cold. You're not wearing gloves. But once my blood is pumping, my hands don't get numb anymore. At first they do. That's why, if you saw in the time lapse, I kept taking breaks to make a fist in my glove. But now you can see I'm turning red, but once my blood's pumping, nothing stops me. People always say, oh, it's definitely not that cold. You're lying because you're wearing a t-shirt out. Oftentimes if I'm filming something, even during my Arctic trip, if I'm going to step out just for a minute, I'm not going to put a jacket on. Everything's burning nicely. A lot of this I'll just let grow back in with woods. But now that it's all down, all these logs, we sank them, so when the ground thaws, they should be touching the ground. They'll rot faster. Still got a bit to mess with up there, but I'd say we got maybe 20% of everything chopped up and burned. That doesn't seem like a lot, but we also lost probably 50 trees, or 50 of them broke. Half of them are still up and throughout the woods, so I don't really care about those unless they're near the yard. I just went in for an hour to take a break, get something to drink. It looks like a gigantic bald eagle's nest now. Wow, look at that. The edges just aren't burning, it's so cold out. But now I'm gonna try to shove all this in there now, right into the center. Even those logs are just about gone now. Wow. I might throw some more logs in, but I'm done with the chainsaw for today. Now I'm just gonna putter around and collect some sticks and throw them in here. There's still a bunch of manageable pieces that fell into the yard I'm gonna drag over here. Well, I guess the sun is strong if that's melting. It means summer's coming. Now that it's the end of January, the sun's gonna start getting a little bit stronger. I didn't think this tree was gonna make it. I almost cut it down. I think that might live. I don't think that got torched. It's so hard to move my fingers. These gloves hardened. The leather on them just hardened. It's gonna take a minute to flex them again. I changed everything, but I left these outside. I didn't want to bring sawdust in the house, so I took everything off before I went in. Wow, look at that smoke. Awesome. I like how the pressure is pushing steam out of the end there. It sometimes makes a slight little whistle. It's pretty cool. Alright everyone, now I'm going to show you a few clips of animals over by the pink toilet. I oftentimes put corn there for the deer and the turkeys. I like seeing them come around. And we have this buck that's been coming here every single day just about. Full video I'll post separately. This is my corn. You've had enough. I'm sorry, please come back.
That's a really nice looking buck. Looks like he's been coming here every day. I'll post the full footage of this camera separately. Here is when the wind happened. Look at this. 8:48 in the morning. Now the next clip, it's down. It doesn't show it falling. So 8:48 and 9:09. It happened in that period. Every tree fell down from one big gust of wind. Pretty interesting. And I find it interesting that the deer keep nibbling on this plant for months on end. Maybe they're just smelling it. It looks like they're chewing, though. Looks like they're chewing. But the plant never gets any smaller. Interesting. Maybe they're just seasoning whatever else they're eating. Maybe they're just, like, tasting it or something. It's a mum. These are mum plants. And the toilet, amazingly, it didn't crack. The spray foam idea worked. I spray foamed the inside of it before I planted. Worked pretty good.
There we go. Alright everyone, I have another trail camera at a slightly different angle at the same exact spot. This one's aimed more at the drinking water bowl that animals use. This is me mowing the lawn in the fall for the last time. But got a lot of good close-up shots. This is a weird winter. You know, I remember my area being, when it got snow, the snow was there until the spring. Now it's being like Massachusetts. It snows and it melts like a week later. Like, you're gonna notice in these videos here that snow, bare grass, snow, bare grass. We are getting cold days, but we also got a lot of warm random days in the middle of the winter. A lot. And here I come, mowing the lawn again, just for fun. I wanted to know how the lawnmower would do in the snow. It actually blew the fluffy snow away really, really well. I had to test it since I was using it to move firewood. That was a fun experience. I'll never do it again, though. Ooh, here's a fox. And I'm just super cutting some of the good clips. It's really hard for me to chop these videos down. I think all the animal videos are great. So I just compile them into like an hour-long video and post it on my vlog channel. There goes the fox again. And who do we have coming up next? The fox is now hiding. You would have seen the tree fall back there next to that firewood pile on the right-hand side of the screen. But I guess it was... none of these cameras picked it up, and I have no idea why. They seem to pick up even a mouse. Here comes a buck. Now you're going to see in one of these upcoming shots, he lost one of his antlers. I really wish I could find that in my woods. I have never found an antler before, but I know people that find them all the time. Maybe because I'm attracting so many deer to the yard, I'll start finding some. That'd be something interesting to have. He's still eating the corn I put out. It's a pretty snowy day. The snow never got deep this year. Never once did I have to clear the snow. I don't even bother clearing it. If I can drive through it, I don't clear the driveway. In this shot right here, this is probably the deepest it ever got. You see me burning today, there's barely anything out there. I love the turkey so much. You know, when I first moved up here, I walked into my yard once with white socks, and I had dozens of ticks just crawling up my legs just from walking in my lawn. Wasn't even in the bushes. These guys show up, ticks are gone. I don't see a single one for the rest of the year. So now I purposely feed them because they have really good vision. They eat all the ticks. And they have become pretty accustomed to me. When I'm not around to feed them, they'll wait on the front porch. Unfortunately, I have to keep pressure washing the front porch. There's a lot of poop that accumulates when they sit out there. But I like having them around. They now have become trusting enough where I can be in the yard with them, but I can't approach more than like 100 feet. Not yet.
We got some really good footage of these bucks, and I think it's a few different bucks. Just looking at the antlers are different shapes. Like, this one looks different than that last one, and you see he's missing an antler. Really wish I could find it. That'd be really cool to have. And now you're gonna see the snow is completely gone. I think this is when the trees were falling and uprooting because the ground suddenly got soft and muddy. Yeah, perfect situation for the trees to fall. Especially since the ground is thawed down to where the roots are, but not down deep, meaning the water can't escape, making it super duper muddy. And check out that bobcat that just walked by. That's pretty cool. Sometimes we also get lynx, which have gigantic natural snowshoes, huge feet. One thing I also love about having fires like this when it's really, really cold, you can touch this stuff without getting sap all over yourself, which is very difficult to get off. You see how this is leaking sap? That's only because the fire got high. Yeah, that's sap, look at that. But everything I was touching today, I didn't get any on me anywhere. All right, everyone, it is the next afternoon. It's actually about to get dark again. Just want to see how much progress did we actually make. Here's what the area looked like before. And here's what it looks like now. Today we are receiving a couple inches of snow. Everything's gonna look white again. Sawdust is pretty much gone. I left my pole out here, crowbar to use as maybe a poker stick. And you know what? Wow. I didn't think it would still be hot with how cold it was yesterday. There's still a few logs in here, but no big deal. Those will rot away. What do you think? There's not enough hot coals in there to actually maybe start us back up again, is there? Doubtful. But I'll kick everything to the middle. Doubt this will start up again. Very, very surprised that there's any smoke in here rising up. Even this big piece, while it's dry, it dried it out before it flipped off the fire. I don't think that'll start back up, but we're definitely gonna have another fire, so maybe use the same spot. It was so cold, I don't think we even killed these trees right next to it. Pretty cool. One more angle before we end this. Here's what it looked like before we did anything. And here's what it looks like now. Thank you for reaching the end of my video. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.